Okay, so the presentation today is called The Sound of Silence, an immersive approach to spearfishermen's ecological knowledge along the Dakar coastline. So Ben already introduced us, so I will go directly in the plan of the presentation. So first I will present why we did this approach, describe the method in itself, and we will show some results. Mainly Babacar will speak there. And we will discuss a little bit this result at the same time and provide some perspectives that could be interesting maybe for the community, the bioacoustic community that you are. So why we did this approach? Since 2018, in Dakar, actually, when I started to work for IRD, I already lived in Dakar before, but at this time, I began to be a researcher without special money limitation, and I decided to buy a hydrophone to try this bioacoustic way to monitor the underwater marine sound around Dakar. So it was very explorative for me because I had no real experience in that. And first, I knew Babacar already, and I said, Babacar, we could go. Where do you think it would be interesting to record? So he took the recording machine and he put it in some different area around Dakar. And my idea with that was just to collect sound in this place and come back and after analyze the sound with all the systems that we can. But speaking with Babacar, it appears that he also developed his own interpretation of the sounds. So maybe Babacar can say a few words now just to explain why he developed this attention to the sound. Là, maintenant, tu peux peut-être, c'est le moment où moi j'ai expliqué que toi, tu avais mis les instruments et qu'on s'est rendu compte que toi, en fait, tu t'es intéressé par les sons. Et donc là, peut-être que tu peux te dire quelques mots pour dire pourquoi tu fais attention aux sons dans ta pratique.
D'accord.
Ouais.
Ok. En fait, li tax ma kii ko mooy vraiment dañu am quatre saisons. 4 saisons yi boo xoolee dafa nekk noor nawet loolu li ak cooroon.
Okay. Now, the reason why, okay, printemps, été, voilà.
The reason why he had this approach in sounds was because there was 4 different seasons, which were.
Okay. Léegi bu 4 saisons yooyu noonu da ngay mën a en fait bu fekkee da ngay def en fait plongée da nga war a observer son yi parce que loolu dafay mooy woon na jën bi mu ngi dem waa mu ngi ñëw ou bien en fait yëf yi ñu ngi duggante donc nag dafa am période boo xam dafay creux donc boo jëlee période bu creux bi dafay dugg si maanaam bu ñuy waaj a dugg si seddaay en fait ñu tuddee ko loolu li xaw ma loolu lañ ko bëgg a xaw ma je crois.
da ngay def naan c'est-à-dire soo commencé wax ci benn son. da ngay wax par exemple ni nga waxee ci waxu saison bi.
waaw
ngay wax saison bu njëkk bi lii après man ma mën la transcrire après ma mën a wax leen.
d'accord
vas-y recommencer.
léegi par exemple bu fekkee ne dañu génn si seddaay.
ok
dugg si tàngaay. léegi kii bi jën yi nekkoon si li fi nekkoon si tàngaay bi dañuy dem diggante dafa am vide donc loolu boo xoolee son yi dafay wàññi.
Okay, so he's talking about like we have different seasons out here. It's not really 4 seasons, but the season like there's a season where it's colder and there's a season that's hotter, like summer and winter. And as we approach to one of them, like depending on the climate or the season, like the sounds approach is different. So vas-y continue.
léegi bu ñu duggee si par exemple seddaay bi. léegi aussi foofu dafay am ay son mais son yi du bari parce que sedd bi mooy concentré ba nga xam te ne jën yi di ñëw jën yi dañuy immigré dañuy ñëw par exemple pour nense donc loolu du bari ay son.
Okay, so he's saying that during the, let's say the cold time or winter time, when the we have immigration of few species of fish, and that like there's not much sounds because they come in and they il veut dire qu'ils pondent quoi.
Spawning.
Okay, so they spawn, and after that they go back to wherever they came from or something.
léegi nag bu ñu demee ba nga xam ne fi nekk bu génn ñu affaire nen nañu ba pare nga xam ne fi nekk dañuy bu ñu ñëw dañuy ndaw mais bu ñu demee ba nga xam ne dugg nañu si format fi nekk nii noor bi mat na léegi foofu da ngay gis jën affaire da ngay gis jën yi ñu commencé format de bu ñu ñëw dañuy ñëw si boo tefes bi mais bu ñuy ñibbi dañuy jaar au large.
D'accord te bu ñu ñëwee dafay fekk ñu ndaw.
waaw bu ñuy ñëw dañuy nekk yoo xam te ne bon xam nga mu mel ni boo day fatigué léegi nag bu ñëwee bu ñuy ñëw dañuy jàpp en forme bu ñuy dem dañuy sonn. parce que day fekk pondre nañu ba nga xam te léegi desewuñ lu bari léegi nag foofu nag bon ak kii da ngay commencé sentir na noor bi mu ngi jeex foofu dafay bëri ay son.
noor
waaw maanaam seddaay bi mu ngi jeex. dafay bëri ay son.
Okay. So he's saying like once they actually come there, they come at a early stage or like at a younger stage, and while they're leaving, they're actually done spawn. You said spawn? Spawning, and they take the large or different way to when they're about to leave, and that vas-y continue.
Donc léegi foofu loolu moo tax ñun suñu chasse ba maanaam bu tolloo foofu.
Okay, and at that point, like the sound is actually there's more sound, so they're actually there, like their presence is more there, their physical presence is more there, and they like you could hear them being there.
léegi nag foofu chasse bi da ngay maanaam si son yi. dafa dépendre si son yi di nga xam ne fii am na jën mbaa amul jën léegi bu son yi wàññee ko da nga xam ne maanaam yaa ngi jëm si mu commencé maanaam kii buy changé leneen lay dugg léegi nag foofu nam aussi day am tuuti benn stand-by parce que jën lu sedd bi dem na léegi tàngaay muy dugg foofu la ñu tuddee jooro mutation boobu.
Okay, so as we're leaving that winter time, we're getting into the spring, as he's saying, and like you could feel the changes because the sound is more present, and like they're starting to fish again, basically.
D'accord léegi nag bu cooroon bi jeexee léegi nag lii di am mooy jën bu fait yi di ñëw vraiment en fait da ngay gis en fait algues yi commencé jóg.
Okay, so once the spring is actually coming in, at this point we actually start seeing beautiful fishes coming out. You're seeing the comment on dit les algues?
Algae.
Weeds. Okay, so the weeds start appearing more, and then they start fishing again.
léegi nag foofu nag bon son yu bari di nga mën a wax ne son yi tel jël moo koy def te loolu buy am day am signe bu mu wane ba maanaam en fait ndox mi kii na baax na. aussi mën nga am mouvement avant mu taw.
Okay, so at this point, he could tell about the different fishes and the different sounds that are there, and that's before it started raining and everything. Voilà.
Okay. Yeah. So and I made Babacar like that because I could speak for 1 hour alone, but because he has a lot of things to say. So we feel that when we speak together that he has a lot of knowledge, but it was not easy, all these things. How do you organize it? And so that was a question. We see that there is a knowledge, but it's complicated to extract. So that's where Nicolas is a colleague of mine, and he's an anthropologist, and he can explain. Nicolas, you can explain the method.
Sure. So yeah, we need a method to further involve fishermen in this kind of shared scientific experience or knowledge experience. And in this In this method, it's important to work on sensation, on sounds, sensorialities, or perception sonore. And with a colleague, Vincent Battesti from Muséum National d'Histoire Naturelle, we create a kind of methodology to study perception of Cairo residents, their sonic perceptions, sound perception, that we called mic in the ears, des micros dans les oreilles. So we used a binaural microphone and GPS device and participants record sounds as they walk through the town in a familiar, in their familiar environment. And at the end of the walk, they listen again and they describe and comment all the sounds. Donc, this method allows us to obtain feedback on the acoustic experience and open up a new description of the urban life. So we thought that we can use this kind of methodology, very participative, with spearfishermen in Dakar by, in some way, immersing the methodology under the water. So, so this is the links that we made for, I mean, studying sound perception under the water and have this kind of material to provoke narrative and discussion about the dives. So the goal in Dakar was to get diving description and comments, and beyond that, to encourage spearfishermen to talk about their underwater environment. Tim, yeah. I let you the floor.
Okay. So, so you already told about the two dimensions of the local ecological knowledge. Yeah, I think so. The area where we applied this method now.
I mean, just if you can back to just to say that in this approach for us, of course, ecological lake, there is a numerous definition, but for us, one point is very important. It's to include in this knowledge the specific sensorial capacities that spearfishermen can develop because of their practice, daily practices under the water. And these sensorial capacities are also to recognize and to be very attentive, attuned, we could say, with the oceanic and the sea sounds. This is a very important part. So that's also why we designed this kind of methodology.
So now I described the area where we work. So it is in Dakar, the western part of Africa, and the coast in Senegal is mostly sandy, but in Dakar it's a mixed rock and sand. And we have a seasonal upwelling system. So an upwelling ecosystem is a system in which the water becomes very cold at part of the year because there's an upwelling of water at the bottom. And it brings very different fishes at that time. And when the upwelling stops, because we are in tropical area, the water becomes very warm. So we have a very contrasted seasons here. There is a very fast urban development. So Dakar has grown. Just in 13 years, I saw a huge change in Dakar. It's growing very fast, and especially the littoral. A lot of construction arrive very near the littoral. Where Babacar fish also, there was a lot of change in terms of access and contamination. And there is a very strong fishing pressure because in Senegal, fishing is really part of the culture, and you have a huge artisanal fisheries. So when you arrive by the sea in Senegal, before you see the land, you will see a pirogue with a fisherman. It's the first thing that you see. And that's true. I did it. So now the method. So we work with free divers like Babacar and the other free divers of the coast. And the idea is that they use a GoPro, as on the picture. They put a GoPro in their head, and they do their usual hunting trajectory. And we cannot do it with divers with bottle, because the bottle, they do a lot of sound with the bubbles. But in apnea, they don't make sound. And there is a lot of divers here who dive every day to hunt the fishermen, the spearfishermen. So it's their job, like Babacar. And so we work with Babacar and 3 other spearfishermen from other localities. And usually they go for like 2 hours or more for the fishing trip. Okay. So when they come back, we have like 2 hours of records. It's very long. So the first thing is to separate the parts during which they are in apnea. And it's very easy when you look at the spectrogram, because you can easily, as you can see in this picture, during the apnea, the spectrogram is very different. So the idea is that when they come back, you have to very rapidly process that. You make a file just with the dive. And so if you have 10 minutes, 15 minutes of just of dive, it's cool. And after, meanwhile, the fishermen, they can have a rest, they eat a little bit. And after, we found a place, a quiet place near the area. Here it was in a restaurant where there was nobody. And so the fisherman can look at the movie and listen with a very good headphone. And he will comment, we ask the fisherman to comment with his own language, the sound of the video. And we record the comments during this time. And we synchronize the comments with the video. So you can say, now I hear that, and after we can go back in the video and find it. So here on the photo, you see Diaz. He was a friend of Babacar, but from another part of Dakar. So different experience. And he also participates in the experiment. Meanwhile, during this time, we spent a lot of time to speak, and so sometimes we did some specific parallel interviews. And in particular, we interviewed one of the older spearfishermen who did not dive anymore, but could also comment on a video made, for example, by Babacar. And it was interesting for him to see the difference with the time. He could the difference in sound. Also, he could comment on that. So we get comments on 8 dives and 4 open discussion. And all the comments were transcribed in French. And so we could work on this text to extract different thematics that were pointed by fishermen. So and isolate the specific sounds that were pointed during the comments. And we identified the fish species when it was possible, when there is a picture. And we also analyze, there was some descriptions that are like imaginary, but we analyze it through the anthropological lens. And we review also the literature on specific points that were raised in the reviewer comments, just to contextualize and see how we can fill the knowledge gap with this information. So maybe, so we enter in the results part. So I was thinking maybe, but I don't know if it will work. We could start with that. It's a small dive, just 1 minute, an example of dive. And I propose that we look at it and maybe donc c'est ta plongée. Tu peux la commenter. Pas besoin de dire beaucoup de trucs, quoi. Juste tu dis quelques trucs, pas trop pour qu'il ait le temps de traduire.
Okay, so he's saying that he will ask him a few questions and he will comment on how he feel about the video right now.
So I put the video. Ok.
C'est bon. Période bi si bu tolloo fi maanaam boo xoolee nawet bi bu tawee ba am ñetti taw si la son yi di gën a bëri.
Okay, at this time when we get to this point of the season, that's where that's when the rain is actually that's why we're getting more rain at this point.
Léegi boo xoolee li def son yi soxor si la mooy soxor yi ak ay coquillage.
Okay, what makes the sounds at this point is the shells. Okay, that's what makes the shells and
Orchin.
Okay, oceans. Okay, and
ñooy def son yi ngay dégg noonu. éclat yooyu ñoom ñoo koy def. Léegi maanaam boo xoolee buñ koy def nii da ngay xool ne algues yi maanaam dañuy lekk. dañuy lekk donc def lii kii dañuy seeni kii day mel ni ku détecté vraiment li nga xam ne moom lañu soxla.
algues yi moom la ñuy lekk. te mooy fexe sound boobu.
waaw léegi nag loolu moo doon ay nen.
Okay, so he's saying at this point, whatever make those sounds, whatever make those sounds is the fact that the
Options.
Okay, that the options is actually what the options are actually eating, which are the weeds that are appearing at that moment.
Léegi su toll léegi nag loolu bu demee ba nawet bi sori maanaam vraiment am 3 4 5.
Okay, when we get as far as the rain season can get.
Léegi bu soree kii son yi dafay wàññeeku.
Okay.
Day fekk ba ma ñoom fees nañ ba pare jël nañ ndoxum taw léegi si foofu nag diggante boobu noonu du bari du sori mu commencé bàyyi. Léegi si lay am soxor ndaw na océan ndaw ñu commencé jub.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so he's saying like when we get to that point and that we get to the end of the season and that's when the ocean. Okay, that's where we get the new baby.
And insertion bu mu am nii. du ko am boobu day wàññi maanaam dañuy faible. maanaam soxor si bu juree ba pare.
Okay.
dafay faible li ngay dégg nii doo ko dégg day dina fi nekk mais insertion bu mu am du ko am.
Okay. So basically saying we're getting less sounds due to the fact that these oceans, I think, am I saying it right? Somebody help.
Yeah.
So that the oceans, like we have baby oceans that are there, and like, you know, the elder versions of the oceans or the more mature oceans are now leaving or so, and like the baby eggs or the eggs, shall I say, are what's there, and we have less sounds at that point.
léegi nag foofu nag boo koy même bu fekkee na nga ko jël di ko lekk dafay weex. parce que léegi jël na ndox eau douce.
Okay, and he's saying that when you eat those oceans, like you will see that it has a it doesn't have the taste that you should get. It's more of comment on dit amer?
Margot.
No, du tout. Get more of 1 second.
Bitter.
Bitter, exactly. It's so you get like this bitterness of taste, and it's because that they actually take in some of the sweet water, from what I understand. Not the salt water, but the other water.
léegi nag foofu nag bon diggante foofu nag ba nawet bi jeex. maanaam day résister. léegi nag yi nga xam te ne vraiment amuñu fooruñu loolu dañuy dee.
Okay, so from that point of the season to the end of the season, like they just resist, and like the weaker would actually die.
léegi nag loolu nag bu jeexee mooy en fait bu demee ba nawet bi jeex nga xam ne fi nekk ñu ngi dugg si vraiment en fait seddaay maanaam nga xam ne ñu ngi dugg seddaay bi léegi nag foofu dañuy commencé reprendre. waaw non bu nawet bi jeexee ba ngay dugg si seddaay.
ok
léegi nag foofu ñun dañuy commencé reprendre mais si biir coquille bi si biir boo ko tojee da ngay gis dafa mel ni dafay am lu weex lu mel ni meew. tu vois léegi nag loolu nag mooy loolu lañ conserver pour mën a toog si ndox mu sedd bi ba déwén si période boobu mu commencé waat indiwaat.
So he's saying that at that point, when we're getting into the cold season again, as we're getting out the raining season, he's saying like some of those oceans, like inside of them, they have this liquid, this white liquid that's like milk. And that's what's actually helping them to resist whatever is coming throughout the whole winter time or the whole cold season, basically.
loolu nag espèce yëpp la espèce yi nekk yi nekk xor yeeg kii yeeg yëpp sauf jën yi moom duñ ko def.
Okay, so he's saying like all these shells type fish are actually the one. It's all of them basically, except the fishes that they all do the same thing in a different way.
weesoo jën yi moom duñ ko def jën yi moom vraiment bu ñu dañuy day neex ñu toog bu naqaree dañuy def mais yi nga xam te ne mënuñu bouger boobu coquillage yeeg soxoor yeeg espèces yooyu yëpp vraiment dañuy miite maanaam soo ko xoolee si période boobu noonu du neex a lekk te aussi da ngay gis vraiment soit day dëgër mbaa boo ko kiyee nga gis mu am benn bu bokkul bu mu war a am.
Okay, and he says that it's due to the fact like that they can go nowhere. And they have to stay where they at that point. They can't migrate or go anywhere. And you will notice that the taste change, and it's bitter or whatsoever. It's not good to eat. It doesn't have such a taste. And that's why at that time, like they don't really, you know. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So there was also other things that I think Babacar did not mention now, but also it was related with the effect of contamination, pollution.
Pollution, okay.
Who also reduced the food of the oceans. Just let me continue after this one. Okay. The description, this description of environmental change can be related mainly to contamination, pollution, contamination, the same, which is very frequently mentioned, and generally with the effect of seaweed depletion, to remove the seaweed on fishing spots, and the consequence is that the urchins, the sound of the urchins is lower, and finally the fish, they don't come. And also it can be related to the comments are related to climate change, because it seems that with the climate change, the effect is that it increased the time lags in the arrival of the fish around Dakar. And the change on the general soundscape also it changed at this moment. With at the time of the year, during the fall, you have this appalling ecosystem that starts again. The water was very warm, the water begins to be cold, and the whole ecosystem changed with a different soundscape. And there is a time lag that is reported by fishermen in the arrival of the fish. And there also reported a specific arrival of the fish in this migration, which was not mentioned in other scientific literature. So now I speak about another result of the fish sounds identification. So one of the things that we notice is that is that spearfishermen develop a very specific way to hear. I think as you, most bioacousticians, you get used to listen very well. And for example, me, when I start, Babacar, when he did his comment, and he said, and now I can hear distant anglerfish. And apparently the sound I wanted to put here doesn't work, but it's not so important. The idea it was a sound in which I cannot hear at all the anglerfish. So I thought, but why he's saying there's an anglerfish? So I did the spectrogram that you see here, and effectively, like at 170 hertz, I could see something. So after I low pass, filter, etc., and I can effectively listen something like something like that. But for someone who is not the ear is not very developed, we cannot hear it.
Okay, so what he's saying is like at this point, he's seen they were seeing a fish, and the fish he could tell, Babacar Sy could tell that there was some type of fish, and like he could hear a sound, and he would tell him that, okay, there's a fish out here, and it's this fish, and this is the sound, and he could not tell or distinguish the sounds. He had to put it on the spectrum and see it like as you guys see it right there, and until he actually put what you call a high pass filter. That's when he could low pass filter. Okay.
Actually, I can show. Okay.
Okay, so he's saying like anyway, you couldn't hear it unless you have Babacar's ear at this point, because it is actually a low frequency, which is 100 hertz, and it's not distinguishable because of, like, as you could tell as well, there is another on the spectrum. You could see that there is high frequencies from 1700 to 1800, which is very high. Not high, but are mids, basically, mid frequencies. And okay, fine.
He translates. He doesn't translate me because he thinks I speak very bad English.
No.
I continue. So because they recognize the sounds, and we have here the example of one of the sounds that was recognized is the example of the bookie gauge. It was a sound. Each time we listen to it, they say it is a bookie gauge. So I try to put it here. This one was recorded near Dakar. And actually, we also recorded it in another ecosystem where there is not so many background noise. Right. Yes. In English, the name, but after we found the name in English, white-spotted stargazer. And we also recorded, because I think you didn't hear very well, because of the background sound of the sea. But when you record it also in estuarine area, mangrove area, south of Dakar, you get something like that. So some of the spearfishermen did not know what was the fish responsible for this sound. But for them, it was like a sound that if they hear it, they are frightened and they prefer to get out of the water. And but also they know it mainly happen during warm season, and they're associated to specific rocky, sandy environments. And eventually to bad conditions, bad fishing conditions. To go back to the screen. So, but other fishers like Babacar identified this fish as a sea hyena, so it's bookie gauge in Wolof, or frog fish also. And it was very difficult to know which fish it was actually. So finally, I went with one of the fishermen, who was a friend of Babacar, and he told me, yes, there's plenty of them here. And I went with him, and he could very rapidly. I think we went just less than 1 hour, half an hour. We went straight to a place near the road. There was we were 50 meters from the shore, at 8 meters depth, and maybe he spent some time, 20 minutes. We tried all different holes with his little instrument, and finally he found one like that. And with this picture, we can identify it, and we say, yeah, it is Batrachoides liberiensis, which is the white-spotted stargazer. And which is interesting that they also describe the way they live. For example, when during the reproduction time, they live by two in the same hole. And effectively, when we get this one, just before there was another one that get out. And in previous literature, this year, there was a scientific paper about this specific fish. And in this scientific paper, this fish is described as really as a habitat in mangrove area, only mangrove area, estuarine. And here we see, actually, you can find it in rocky area, but it is not a targeted species. So you will never see it out of the water. The fishermen, if they get it by any chance, they throw it again, because it's not interesting to eat. Babacar, tu veux dire quelque chose sur le bookie gauge?
Ouais. En
Ouais.
fait, maanaam li boo koy soo koy dégg yaa ngi koy dégg comment en fait nawet bi bu nekk si nawet.
Okay, the only time you actually hear them is during the raining season.
léegi nag bu ñu nekkee si nawet bu nawet bi jeex da nga gis moom da son dafay wàññeeku.
At the end of the season, you will hear less of them.
waaw léegi nag bu wàññeekoo da nga xam ne fi nekk nii pour ma surotuloo pour ma en fait nawet bi jeex ba pare noor bu mu ngi wàcc.
Okay, so that's when you could tell that we are approaching winter time or the cold season and that there's less sound of them.
léegi nag si loolu dafa am benn période boo xam te ne vraiment boo ko dul déglu ba da ngay gis jën yi yëpp jën yi dañuy tase dafa mel ni comme par exemple dañu tase benn béréb dañu war a voyager. da ngay gis ñu daje lu bari. da ngay xëy suba benn ñaar ñetti fan après dootoo gis dara.
Okay, and he says that at that time that you could actually tell that they like all type of fishes will actually meet, like they are ready to migrate to another area, basically.
léegi nag loolu parce que phénomène la boo xam te ne dafay am creux maanaam boo ko xoolee 2 mois lay doon si at mi.
Okay, and it happens only twice during the year at a certain month, and when it happens, like they're there for maybe 1 day or 2 days, and then you hear no more sound and they leave.
léegi nag loolu ma yokk si benn kii loolu mooy tax en général bu ñaan gi amul jël période boobu la.
Okay, that's when they actually say that's when they actually when they say that there's no more fish or there's less fish at this time, it's usually those times. Okay, when the fisherman says, "Oh, there's no fish in the sea," it's actually at those times.
Okay, so I continue. Also, it is interesting that in the result, it appears that the sound can have two effects on the fish. Sometimes it can be attractive, and sometimes it can be repulsive. And so the fishermen they can use this behavior that they know from each species how it reacts, and they use it in their practice. Babacar, tu veux parler de ça, de comment tu utilises les sons pour attirer les poissons ou pas?
Ok. Bon, en fait, bu ñu tolloo si nord.
Okay, when we actually get to the colder season,
donc léegi dafa am jën yoo xam te ne dañuy curieux maanaam xamuñu nit bu fekkee da nga nekk si benn profondeur boo xam ne dafa xóot nga xam ne dafa maanaam mënuloo dem si fond bi da ngay utiliser ma ay coup si ndox mi mu def benn bruit léegi loolu nag ñu ko tuddee gan maanaam mën na nekk coofu gan day jóg day ñëw bu sa kanam taxaw loxol parce que du ko gis nit. maanaam exemple bu fekkee ne da nga ñëw maanaam seddaay la. jën bi du xam nit.
Okay, so dafa am ay jën yu bees yu ñëw.
waaw si mooy coof ay barèges yu dem noonu sedd la.
Okay, so he's saying when the cold season is approaching, we do have white groupers. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that fish. White groupers, such fish as white groupers is called chof in Senegal, but coming from elsewhere, and like you have to go deep, a little bit deep to actually make some type of sound in the water for them to hear it and approach you. And he's saying that those fishes are actually curious, and they call them curious fishes in a way, or invited fishes at some point.
Hey, foofu da ngay utiliser ay coup de kii comme par exemple ay coup da nga booy def nii si ndox mais doo ko defee nii ngay defee nii day mel ni comme booy tëgg tam-tam.
Okay, so he's saying
dafay am benn kii bi dafay am benn écho boobu nag bépp jën boo xam ne maanaam xamul nit day génn taxaw di la xool.
Okay, then I defaat just a little. So he's saying like right now, you see this this gesture that he's making is the gesture that they making in the water, and it would sound like drum sound. And when they hear those sounds, they actually approach because they're curious to know what's there, basically.
léegi nag loolu maanaam loolu mooy jënu sedd yi.
Okay, and those are the fishes of the cold season.
waaw si sedd bi loolu la ñuy utiliser.
Okay.
parce que jën bu xamul nit. léegi su ñu demee ba si biir dafa am beneen type jën bi xamul nit bu ñu demee bu fii ak 2 mois 3 mois dafay commencer miin.
Okay, so that's what they use to actually attract the fishes of the cold season, and within a month or two, they start getting to get used to that sound or what they're doing. Okay, once they get used to it, now they call them like local fishes.
beneen façon type de pêche technique moom ngay utiliser.
Okay, so at that point they have to approach with different techniques to fish, because like now that they get used to that sound or whatever method they had before, they have to change that so they could fish more.
Parce que foofu li ngay utiliser mooy bu fekkee ne fiche da nga ko armé daf koy xam, bu fekkee armé daf koy xam.
Okay. So he's saying that at that point, once you arm the
harpoon, the harpoon. Okay, no, that okay, I guess.
The spears, I guess. Like once you charge it, they will know, and if you uncharge it, they will know. Once you have it, they'll know basically.
Donc foofu nag moom il faut nga nekk un vrai plongeur pour nga mën si génn, sinon.
Okay.
En fait moom xam li muy def.
Okay, so at that point you have to be professional and know what you're doing, because if you don't, it's not, you won't be able to fish at all.
Léegi nag loolu nag mooy jeexal maanaam loolu jën yooyu dem ba dëkk nag ñoom ñooy dem ba noor bi dellusiwaat déwén.
Okay, and so those are the fishes that will stay until the next season, basically. Yeah. Voila.
Okay.
We have a question in the chat. Whether maybe Babacar can shed some light on this. If there's a predator-prey relationship for the types of sound produced, and what species come and what species go, does that, like, would a predator be one of those curious fishes if they think that it's potentially the sound of prey, vice versa? So can you learn about the predator-prey relationship based on those sounds that are produced?
Okay, one second. Attends, je suis en train de voir juste un mot.
Can you repeat the question rapidly, just 1 second?
Yes, like basically, depending on the sounds that you produce, are certain types of fishes attracted or repelled? Does that shed light on their status as predators or prey? Like, where are they in the trophic pyramid?
Okay, I get the idea. Je peux le dire en français. Donc, en fait, il demande si quand tu fais ces sons là qui attirent, est-ce que tu as remarqué que certains types de sons attirent certaines espèces en particulier, et est-ce que ça a un lien avec le fait que ces poissons-là, ils chassent tel type d'espèce? Tu vois ce que je veux dire?
Non, je vois. En général, du loolu. C'est-à-dire pour moi, yooyu noonu, mais en fait, ils cherchent, parce que chasse bi si kii bi la dépend si ligne si weer bi. Maanaam ñoom bu ñuy par exemple géej bu fekkee dafay fees. Dafay am moment boo xamante ne maanaam day jël 10 ba 15 ba 20 ba 25 ba 1 heure temps yoo xamante ne ñoom dañuy cherche.
Ok, sooy wax ci weer bi mooy lan weer bi
lépp si géej gi si weer bi la dépend.
Weer bi mois wala weer bi lune?
Non, lune bi ñuy musulman. Donc soo ko dee dañ koy xaaj. Donc
dañuy recommencer le début parce que woon xam ndax weer bi la doon.
Non, weer bi la.
Ok, vas-y,
parce que ñoom par rapport ak weer bi ñu jàpp.
D'accord, ok.
Donc ñu ngi jël si benn musulman.
Ok.
Xam nga 28 la ba 29. 29 par 30. Donc léegi nañ jël nañ dindi.
D'accord. Okay. He's saying that everything is going to be based off like the lunar calendar, and that's how they usually fish.
D'accord. Léegi soo weer bu nekkee 29.
Okay. When the moon is at 29, which is the end of the lunar.
Léegi da ngay xaaj en 3.
They divide it by 3.
waaw léegi 3 yi da nga jël 7.
Okay.
yaa ngi dégg.
Okay.
génne si maanaam 10 da nga si génne 3.
Okay. So knowing that it's 30 or 29 days, like you will divide it by 3, which will give you like 10 days. And within those 10 days, you have to take out 3, which will make it 7 days.
boo si génne 3. moo la jox ma en fait temps bi géej gi maanaam moment bi nga war a dem nappi mu dox ak moment bi nga xam te ne napp bi dafay commencer ralentir.
Okay, and that's when they actually identify the time of fishing. And when it's actually
3 le 2 10 ak benn 9.
Okay.
Si ngay génne benn bu si nekk 3.
Okay, so he's saying like the 2 10 days and the 9 days, you have to take 3 days out of those specific periods.
Il avait demandé si les sons que tu fais attirent différents types de poissons.
Ouais, non, c'est ce que j'ai entendu.
Okay. He's getting to the point, don't worry. Okay.
Léegi nag nga si loolu si maanaam booy def ay son si biir géej gi. Dafay attirer façon jën bu nekk dafay mais tam dafay dàq jën bi nga xam ne xam na nit.
Okay, so he's saying like, so when at those time when they make those sound with the gesture he just did, some of the fishes recognize the sound, so those will go or leave, but some of them, like the new ones, won't know, so they will come and get attracted to those new sounds.
Léegi nag bu fekkee da nga bëgg jën bu ragal bi bu fekkee bu jën bi nga xam ne dafa xam nit son boobu daf koy dàq, mais bu fekkee da nga wàcc ma def benn kii tëdd suuf da nga koy seen mu taxaw fële parce que xam nit maanaam da koy jël distance boo xam te ne maanaam yow doo si mën daal da nga koy xool du def benn geste day taxaw di la xool.
Okay, so like the newcomers, when they come, they will keep a distance and they will know they will keep a distance and observe from a distance what's going on because they do not recognize that sound.
Léegi nag bi nga xamante ne xamul nit nag day ñëw ba sa kanam.
And the one, okay, now the one
bi nga xamante ne xamul li xew.
kon bii xam la.
Bii xam mooy taxaw distance bii xam dafay ñëw.
Okay, actually I got it wrong. So the one that knows will stay from a distance and watch them make that sound, but the one that doesn't know or doesn't recognize the sound will come all the way up to their faces like this.
ñaari kii la c'est-à-dire son bi dafay am loo xam dafay kii xam day dem distance.
Okay.
Kii xamul day son bi daf koy attiré day ñëw taxaw di la xool.
Okay, so he's saying that the only difference is that basically like those two type of fishes, the one that knows and the one that doesn't, and the one that knows will keep a distance and watch from that distance, and the other one will come all the way up to their faces. And it doesn't matter the species. Okay. That's it. Does it answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if let's go through the rest of the presentation, and then I think we have a lot of curious fish amongst us with questions for Babacar and the team, so we can have a Q&A session at the end.
Okay. So we are not very far from the end, but we this idea of guest fish for me was for us was very interesting. Maybe Nicolas, you want to say something about that also? About the guest fish?
But yes, very briefly. I mean, game fish. It's also the stranger fish, and it's a migrant fish. So we will see after that there is a kind of ecological truth behind this consideration of a fish migration of fish. But the idea is that it's important to integrate this kind of knowledge not only as particular form of representation of the nature of the underwater world, but as a kind of a specific ecological knowledge. And as Timothée will show us now, the story of the GAN fish is linked, could be linked with real migration of fish in the region. So it's not just something from the imaginary, but it's a combination. And this is very interesting if we want to think about how do these very deep knowledge are constituted or organized.
Okay, so I continue. So yes,
You're muted, Timothée.
Okay. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah.
No, it's muted. We can't hear you now. No.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Let's go. So yeah, so the presence of this fish actually corresponds to seasonal migration. So I've been through the literature for this particular fish, Epinephelus aenus, which is the white grouper. And so, yes, it is documented that there is a suspicion of in Dakar being for the same species. There is a group of them that do migration, another group that do not do migration. And so it was in the literature, it was like an hypothesis, but I don't know exactly. It's like they say, yeah, it could be, but we don't know where does it come from. I think it probably just come from a conversation with the fishermen, but it's not said in the papers. And but this is then some hypotheses or things that can be interesting to test, but probably cannot be detected by genetic studies because if they reproduce together, there won't be difference. And something interesting that the fishers, they also describe different colors. So Babacar, you can recognize by the color. I said this one is local, this one is not local. So depending on whether they reproduce locally or not, at least for this one Epinephelus. And so yeah, this kind of knowledge can be interesting for management in the future. We can imagine. Okay, we try to protect at least the migrating one or the opposite, I don't know. But it could be useful also for the management of the species. So we already come to the conclusion. For me, the main conclusion that we see from the approach that there is a very diverse kind of local knowledge that get out from this method. And it gives the idea also how that we could integrate that in academic research. For example, on the description of the habitat of fish, maybe on some to understand the local ecosystem. This knowledge include fish behavior, migration, effect of marine pollution, overfishing also. So we just described 2 or 3 results here, but there's really plenty of things that were mentioned. Habitat destruction, the effect of urban infrastructures on fish. And so this process contributes to fill knowledge gaps in the area. And also our results contrast with other studies of local ecological knowledge. first because of the scale of the description of the marine environment that is very, very fine, very, very small scale. But also the contents did not come from the question of the researcher, but just get out from the fisherman himself when he comments the video. And so this is a major difference I see with previous local ecological studies that I saw in West Africa. So what we present here is mainly the method, but we did not spend a lot of time to use any specific point of the result. And there will be it's the open door for a lot of specific research, I think. And also the method has given rise to exchange that go beyond the survey itself, because during the process, we share knowledge, we get new ideas and projects that can help local communities to protect the environment. And for example, in this project, there was Khalifa, who's doing the translation now. He developed a project to based on the sound, also to give voice to Babacar about his knowledge of the marine ecosystem, and to scientific analysis we can also provide. And also there was last week, for example, there was in the village someone who is going to make a painting on the walls on the marine ecosystem, and this also emerged from this interaction, because we meet and we exchange ideas, and poof, things happen like that, and people speak more about the under marine world, and I think it raises consciousness. So I just propose some perspective, but maybe Nicolas, you want to add something here in the conclusion that I didn't say? Or?
No, no, just to say also that our study is also taking in consideration question of sensoriality. And that's it. It's important to mention because it's based actually on the sensorial interaction between the fishermen and their environments, underwater environment.
Okay. Just propose some perspective is that the recording system was not ideal, with the GoPro. It's not ideal because it moves. But Babacar had good idea to fix it very well, but anyway, it's not maybe the ideal system. And I think the binaural mics, but that work underwater would be excellent for this kind of method. And also for me, it was a struggle when they get out of the water to rapidly isolate the dive. I'm sure this kind of thing can be automated. And also now because Ben, you told me that most people of the community, bioacoustic community, work on terrestrial, and it makes me think that why not using this method again in the air, but not in a city like did Nicolas, but maybe with people who hunt in ecosystems. Terrestrial, maybe it will be interesting. Then you have the binaural mix. That's all. Yeah. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, I wanted to. We can listen after an hour if you want. At the end, I will put some music done by Khalifa. So, Babacar, tu veux dire quelque chose pour conclure aussi?
Ouais, en fait, si man li ma mooy bon bu fekkee ne man environnement bi maanaam ñu ngi si bàyyi xel xëy na mën na nekk vraiment aussi parce que fi nekk ne bu ñu xoolee lu bari mu ngi dem parce que ñu ngi yàq environnement bi.
So he's saying that he hopes that everybody is actually keeping in mind that the environment under the water is actually deteriorating, and that maybe it might evolve to something better, and that's what he hopes.
léegi nag ñun bon c'est particulièrement parce que man bon maa ngi jëm mag mais maanaam génération bi di ñëw. am na si espèces yoo xam te ne vraiment bu ñu defulee très attention mën naa am duñ boo ko waxee sax duñ xam ne mosoon na fi am.
Okay, so he's saying that if we actually don't take care of that in the near future, some of the species that are actually living and are here and that we know are here, the next generation coming up, they might not even know if some type of species were actually living here at this time.
Donc loolu bon buñ si fekkee ne am na possibilité pour ñu ñëpp mën ko partager. ñu mën a xam ne nag maanaam aussi en fait réchauffement climatique bi dafay jouer aussi ba si écosystème bi.
Okay, so he's saying that with the awareness that we all have, we shall be able to actually share it worldwide, and have everybody aware of that, so it could help in a certain way.
Donc loolu dafay nekk day nekk loo xam ne vraiment aussi dinañu dimbali vraiment pour le futur aussi. non présent pour le futur aussi ba même bu fekkee ne neewatuñ fi ñii di ñëw ñu fekk au moins espèce bi man fi nekk.
Okay, and he's saying like with the climate change that has happened and has an impact on it, he hopes that us knowing that and us being aware that we take action so that the next and future generation that are coming will be able to benefit from what we know and make sure that these species get to the next generations. And that was it.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, we hear you great. So we have a lot of questions from the curious fish amongst us, and I think we'll start with Julia, who Julia, if you speak French, I would say go for it.
Okay, d'accord.
Okay, I asked the question both in English and in French, so I can ask in English first for the rest of the people here. I was wondering how the spearfishermen reacted to the recordings when they are behind the screen, because I know it's quite different when you are underwater and you try to listen with your own ears, because we don't have the right system to listen underwater. Donc, merci beaucoup pour votre présentation, c'était très intéressant, malgré la difficulté du langage. Ma question porte sur la réaction des pêcheurs lorsqu'ils ont écouté les sons à l'aide de l'ordinateur et avec le casque, parce qu'on entend assez différemment quand on plonge nous-mêmes avec nos oreilles, de quand on écoute un enregistrement. Donc, comment ils réagissent à ça, quelles sont les différences et à quel point ils entendent les sons sous l'eau, surtout, c'est ma grande question.
Ok.
Si tu veux, yaay xool.
waaw bàyyi ma xool. c'est-à-dire vraiment maanaam képp koo xam te ne vraiment da ngay plonger.
For him, anybody that actually does
En fait, plonger.
Dive.
Okay, so
diving.
The apnea diving.
Okay, so for him, anybody that does the apnea diving.
léegi da ngay ci en fait boo bëggee en fait nekk plonger en fait boo xam ne da ngay kii ne donc da ngay observer tous les sons parce que par exemple mooy tax nga mën a napp.
Okay, so he's saying that for him, any diver or any professional diver gotta have a specific or a very specific ear.
léegi loolu aussi maanaam bu fekkee ne vraiment da ngay utiliser vraiment say kii donc da ngay am maanaam da ngay ñàkk maanaam si kaw joor bi doo am dégg-dégg mais si biir ndox mi booy décompressé bu fekkee ne amuloo benn problème mu décompressé si biir ndox mi lépp ngay dégg.
Décompressé,
maanaam da ngay dindi air bi si nekk décompressé.
Okay, décompressé. Okay, so he's saying like basically, they have a different way of hearing once they actually go underwater, which impact them once they actually out here now on the surface. Once they're on the surface, they actually hear less than we hear now because it impacts them in a way. Okay, so it impacts them in a way in which now they have developed a way of hearing underwater that we do not have at all. And but they do recognize the sound when we play them because it comes to a close it comes like it comes pretty close to what they're hearing on the videos and the sound that you actually are playing.
Okay. So even if it's different, you still recognize the
Voilà, la différence n'est pas importante.
Ok. léegi nag loolu aussi daf lay permettre aussi pour nga mën a am vraiment ay repères selon pour sas bi ngay def moo xam lu mu mën a doon daf lay may nga am repère donc toutes les plongeurs yëpp maanaam am nañ ko mais nag bon ku nekk nag aussi pour li ngay concentré pour nga mën a maanaam nga ne lii laa bëgg dem def donc loolu da nga si concentré mais du tere aussi da ngay bàyyi xel si yeneen yi parce que espèce yi aussi li si nekk mooy vraiment son boo dégg vraiment am na lu mu représenté am na son yoo xam ne soo ko déggee vraiment mën na nekk en danger donc da ngay bàyyi xel loolu parce que moo tax plongeurs yëpp y compris plongeurs yëpp même équipe la ñuy am mais nag vraiment da ngay am aussi ay pressentiment que ne mën na du bañ a doon dara mais mën na doon aussi dara bon c'est pour aussi nga mën a sàmm sa kii quoi.
Okay, so he's saying that they also have like a reference points when it comes to hearing. Like they will have they will recognize specific sound, and that some of the fishes will actually make a certain sound, and they would know that this type of sound is a sound that actually this specific sound is a way of warning basically, or saying like, oh, we're in danger. So it's a sound that will communicate. Il a parlé de genre certains sons vont définir un danger. Okay. Et les poissons vont émettre ce son ce son spécifique. Okay. And that they will have reference point, and most of the divers, they know and recognize those sounds, and they talk in between them to make sure that what they're hearing are the same.
Donc loolu en général pour plongeur yi ba ko am donc nekkul kii moo ko am ka amu ko léegi nag bon mu def nag vraiment ñaari mu am ñaari séparation maanaam sooy dem profondeur yaa gën a exposé ki nekk si vraiment si suuf maanaam ki nekk ki nga xam te ne demul profondeur yow mi dem profondeur yaa gën a exposé
ci lan
ça veut dire que profondeur bi en fait danger bi fa la gën a ëppee parce que espèce yëpp mën nañ fa jaar.
Okay, he's saying like the deeper you dive, the more you're exposed to danger. Donc
donc loolu mooy différence mais plongeurs yëpp vraiment ils ont léegi nag dafa am ñoo xam te dañu am fait découpe bu gudd bu sensible am na ñoo xam te amuñu ko selon bon si santé nit ñi daal.
Okay, now depending on the divers some of them have actually developed a pretty good hearing. Some have a poor hearing, some have a very long distance hearing, depending on the diver and the experience, basically.
And maybe I can add something about for your question, because when you, for example, if you use a GoPro directly like that, it has a pre-processing of the sound, and it's not good for the method because sometimes I think it's a system that is made to remove the effect of the wind or something like that, and you have to remove all the system, and so you record only the crude sound, because otherwise when you listen the video, really it will change the levels suddenly, and it is not realistic at all. So fishermen, they think, yeah, no, there is no filters in what we use. We remove all the filters. Okay. And so you don't have a change in levels that are not natural.
Right.
Because otherwise
Yeah,
you
it's
can
just
have
amazing.
that are near the surface instead of being near the bottom.
Right.
Yes, if I can add something very briefly, the fisherman and Ikero, it was the same. They can also remember some sounds that they have heard during the experiment. So they will look for this sound in the recording. And of course, the recording is different than the situation under the water, but it's often they say that it's more audible. But it's precisely an experiment to reach the attention, to put the attention on this sonic dimension. So it is also by this, they are prepared to have this this moment to hear and to try to recognize sounds that they will do without reflexivity during their practice in the walk in the town or when you are diving. It's the same. The sound is not very reflexive. So you will need something to put it in at a consciousness level. So that's why the experiment, the process, the methodology can help.
Okay, Johannes, I saw that you had a question as well.
Yeah, well, mostly I wanted to say this is a great talk, but also an insane coincidence for me because I used to live Babacar Nangadef. I used to live in Almadies. I don't know if you remember me, but you fixed my spearfishing gear. I went spearfishing. Je sais fait à Vivier.
D'accord. Je me rappelle.
So it's a very small world because bioacoustics is really niche.
D'accord.
So I just wanted to say hi, and I think it's really amazing to see how your knowledge is being integrated into these studies. And I hope that Dakar and the seascape there stays beautiful for you and everyone in the next generations.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Amazing. So let's see. Hey, Ben, you still have a question?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much to everyone for this presentation. Merci beaucoup and assalamu alaikum. So I guess I have two questions. One is about the content and one is about the music. The first is, you've described a variety of audible threats to these ecosystems and particularly human pressures. And you also described how a lot of these sounds are time sensitive, how they can indicate seasonal change and these interwoven life histories of so many different species. I'm curious if you've been able to hear any impacts from climate change and the shifting changes of the seasons. And my second question is, I'd love to hear some music. I know I have to leave in a couple minutes, and I'm just hoping you could share that with us before more people start to drop off. Thank you so much.
Ok, so il demande si est-ce que genre, tu es arrivé à distinguer la différence en son selon les saisons par rapport à comment genre d'une saison à une autre, comment est-ce que le son a changé par rapport à des poissons. Madame, dis-moi, est-ce que
Comprends.
J'ai compris. Ah, d'accord, vas-y.
C'est-à-dire, son yi du changer.
Okay, the sound doesn't change.
léegi nag li leen différent mooy probablement bu fekkee ne moom géej dafa pollué. dafa sol da ngay sant ne comment dafay wàññeeku, c'est-à-dire espèce dafa mel ni ko ku dem foo xam te ne comment fa la environnement mu gën a sain.
Okay, he's saying like he said you could tell at some point because due to pollution that some of the fishes will actually get tired in some reason, and that the sound would it will have less sound, but the sound doesn't change due to pollution.
léegi nag foofu dara du changé mais maanaam weer yi mën nañu duggante comme tàngaay yi da nga jékki-jékki ba comme fi nekk nii ñu ngi nekk si décembre xam nga en général bu yëkkoon daf daan teel sedd. fi mu nekk nii ñu ngi si presque si tàngaay lañ nekk loolu nag mën na changé en fait période yi. Mais les sons, les trucs ne changent pas.
Okay, saying due to the climate changes, like you could tell, like right now we're in December, and usually at December it would be really cold, but due to the climate changes, like it doesn't really, it has an impact, but it doesn't really impact the sounds. And just like we explained earlier, according to the season or according to the climate at that time, we will hear the type of sound that we have.
loolu mais amul changement.
But there's
boo amee loo xam te ne bokk si da nga koy xam parce que da ngay gis ne pour période bi daan na am lii mais amul lii donc léegi nag da ngay xool pour soit weer dañu duggante dafa toxu comme par exemple ni ñu koy waxee si weeru olof xam nga weer dañuy duggante comme par exemple ni nga oore woon weeru juin par exemple day efface 5 jours ba 6 jours loolu nag moom mooy indi tout le temps mu am retard mais les sons ne changent pas.
Okay, basically you're saying the same thing, like the sound don't change and it doesn't impact it at all. Yeah, but for the music, I will let Timothée
put some music.
Play some music for you.
Let's share some music.
I'll say this: I use the sounds and filter them in a way, and treat them in a way as an audio engineer and as an acoustician as well, but not not the bioacoustician that you guys are. But that's what I use, and me as a musician as well, and just like use the sounds of the fish as an instrument, basically. So yeah. In the beginning, you will hear the sound that I use, and then I'll put in some music so you can hear the difference. So yeah, that was the okay. So that was the sound we had, and basically it started off. He made a mistake because at some point he was just playing the sound of the fish. But if you pay close attention, when we started the music, it started with the sound alone, and then it dived in into the music, and I kind of integrated it into as an instrument, basically. Yeah.
Khalif, thank you.
Online somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it online? Like available to listen to online?
It's not yet, but it should be once because we actually have to do a couple podcasts. And once those podcasts get online, I think we'll come up with a few titles and a few records, including those sound of fishes, of different fishes, basically, that Timothée and Babacar recorded, and it'll probably come online on YouTube and on platforms as well, you know. But that will be IRD.
Yeah, the idea that no, it should be public, I think. Yeah,
Oui, c'était public.
And it, because I put the mics, the hydrophone a little bit everywhere in Senegal, and in particular in a marine protected area, because I work with the marine protected area, the Ministry of Environment, and so we get plenty of different sounds. And so Khalifa will be able to use it. So there's a large diversity.
I saw we had a question from, let's see, up in the chat, Inga. So Inga is working with interspecies communication. And so a question for Babacar. Would he say that he or other spearfishermen ever feel like they're communicating with the fish, and so returning sound to them rather than just attracting them as curious fish?
Est-ce que dina am ay moment yoo xamante ni di ngeen xalaat ni que mën ngeen est-ce que mën nga communiquer ak kii quoi benn ak jën, c'est-à-dire que nga mën a wax ak jën au lieu muy xalaat ni que day daw da lay daw au lieu mu lay daw nga mel ni kuy wax ak moom muy dégg ñaaw.
C'est-à-dire en fait jën yi
the fishes
bu weesoo par yow boo nappulee fekkee na en fait da nga maanaam jën bi daf bu fi dëkkee.
Okay, well, if the fish actually lives in the area,
léegi dafay xam nit.
They will recognize the people.
léegi soo yoree arme.
Yeah, if you have a spear, a gun, I guess, yeah.
maanaam boo ko armé daf koy xam.
Okay, when you arm it, it will know.
boo ko armul daf koy xam.
When you doesn't, it will know.
léegi nag léegi si loolu. bu leen boo armé wul mën na ñëw ba jege la mais boo armé aussi bu fekkee ne xamuñu la mën nañ ñëw ba jege la parce que xamuñu. il suffit que nga commencé am benn mbaa ñaar. ba nga gis ñu commencé en fait disperser wu.
Okay, saying like once you arm, they know. Once you don't arm it, they know. But like they will come all the way down to your face, and once they actually start understanding the fact that it's you triggering them, you start dispersing.
léegi nag am na si par exemple bu fekkoon na tàngaay la.
When it's the hot season.
maanaam bu fekkee ne ay li ñu baraku daa maanaam sëdd. non amul nekkul fi. dama ko bëgg wax na par exemple.
For example, if there's this one type of specific fish.
yooyu dafa am lu spécial lu ñu am.
They have something very specific. I don't know the name of this fish, so that's why
I think it's barracuda.
Barracuda. Okay.
léegi nag loolu li tax moom spécial mooy moom.
Why is it special?
mën na gaañoo fële. maanaam ñu gaañ ko quelque part mu am blessure quelque part.
Okay.
mu fekk la fii yow kese même ngay sangu mu songa la.
Okay, the fact like he's saying like why is it special or why that fish is special is like you could actually hit him from a very far distance and it will find you exactly when you are and attack you.
léegi boobu am na si boo xam te ne aussi boo armé jël visé ko ki arme bi mu songa la.
Okay, and there's another type, which the same species. If you actually arm the gun from the point you start arming, it will start attacking you, and you will know.
moom rek moo nekk si jën boo xam te ne moom quel que soit lu moom ragul la moom day ñëw. ma soo deful loo warul def moom. même bu fekkee dafa gaañu feneen maam mu wóor ko ne dafay dee moom pour bu la fekkee foofu moom du xool kii la day.
Okay, that's the only that's the only fish or specific fish that would, no matter what, if it's hurt or not, will come to you and attack you regardless.
léegi nag bu fekkee ne comme par exemple jën yi mën nga jege maanaam bu fekkee da ngay ut ay coquillage yu demee noonu nga xam ne affaire weñ rek nga yor. da ngay gis jën yi dañ lay jege nii dañ lay jege mais saa boo yoree loo xam te ne c'est arme boo xam te ne mën na leen kii da ngay commencé kii sauf jën yu ndaw yi moom à tout moment dañuy jege mais bu weesoo loolu jën yu mag yi nga xam te ne ils sont importants dañuy moytu mais bu fekkee da nga yor loo xam te ne bu leen gaañ dina def dara mën na ñëw ba tiim la nii.
So he's saying like if you don't have anything that would harm them in a way, they will know. If it's nothing big such as a gun, you will see all these different species and small fishes as well come close to you and surround you. But the second you have something and that will hurt them, they will be aware of it and they will actually start getting away.
Maybe I add something also about this communication between fish that was mentioned, not here, but this idea of solidarity between the fish, solidarity. So sometimes, for example, Babacar or other fishermen say that when you hit certain species, they will make a sound, and this sound attracts the other conspecific.
Yes, you did. Yeah. True, I remember that. So yeah, so like he says,
oh, he already said it. Yeah. Sorry.
There you go. Yeah.
So I have 2 questions. One, I'm curious how this knowledge is transferred to other spearfishermen or passed down, or like where it's stored, if at all. Because like if, let's say, I'm used to going on a walk with an experienced birder and they're able to tell you here are these sounds that are these species, and it's very easy to listen to the sounds and talk and explain in real time to teach. And so I'm wondering, like, how do you learn about this from other spearfishermen, or is this something that each spearfisherman learns by themselves as they're getting more experienced?
Okay. Genre naka ngay amee xam-xam boobu naka lay ñëwee est-ce que te naka ngeen di jàllalee xam-xam boobu parce que loo xamante ni genre da ngeen di ko jëlee ci maam yi non pas maam yi man maa wax maam yi est-ce que loo xamante ni da nga koy jël ñeneen wala naka leen koy kii parce que moom dafa bëgg xam naka la xam-xam boobu
diñ koy transmettre
voilà naka la xam-xam boobu di ñëwee est-ce que yow da ngay il faut nga dem dugg ci biir bon loolu maa fi est-ce que il faut nga dem dugg pour am benn xam-xam bi wala mën nañ la ko wax rek loo xamante ni day jàllale te naka ngeen di ko jàllalee ci topp.
Ok benn bu njëkkee mooy
at first
man
myself
ni ma ko xamee
the way I know it
dafa nekk ñaari yëf donc dama commencé napp.
It's 2 different things.
Donc avant my plonger.
Okay, he said he started fishing before actually doing dive apnea dive.
He started line fishing
yeah, before diving.
bi ma jógee bi ma nekk si loolu booy maanaam booy napp en fait da ngay kii léegi nag dañ lay wax ak yoo xam te maanaam da nga koy yow yaay xool pour ku nekk ak li nga am da ngay ñoo xam ne da ngay améliorer par selon si fi nga toll.
Okay, so through line fishing, he actually learned a few things, and he was told like this and that and the third, and and he would hear and use that knowledge as he goes.
léegi nag man bi may jàng bi ma ay 87 88 c'est là commencé plonger.
Okay, so he's saying in 87 that's when he started doing diving.
léegi nag foofu nag dañ lay jàngal.
And that's where they actually teach him.
Parce que moment boobu géej gi am na jën donc yaay doo maanaam da ngay nekk gan si kii bi donc yu bëri doo ko maîtriser.
Okay, he's saying at that time there was still a lot of fish, and he was he was new to that, and like there's a lot of stuff he didn't know.
léegi soo jógee si loolu léegi nag les grands plongeurs yi erreur boo def dañ la koy wax dañ la nii nga koy defee warloo kon defee def nii nga koy defee def nii léegi nag bon après ak le temps.
So he's saying like the more experienced one would told him and show them that, oh, you're doing this right and you're doing this wrong. And with time, like they'll get to know what's going on.
Donc léegi nag loolu nag après finalement ngay commencé xam lan mooy en fait li nga war a def ak li nga war a def après nag ak expérience bi ngay nekk bés bu nekk yaa ngi si ndox mi da ngay commencé gis commencé distinguer commencé am beneen lecture bu bokkul ak lecture bi nga xam te ne moom nga maanaam dañ la koy wax ni rek.
Okay, so he's saying that through time, that's when he knows and distinguish like the right from the wrongs, and he will know what to do and what not to do while he's fishing.
waaw léegi nag buñ la boo nekkee si kii bi nag selon ni ngay demee aussi am na ñoo xam te ñoo la si jiit da ngay gis ay erreurs yu ñuy def.
As you go,
da nga koy mën a moytu yow.
Okay, and he's saying as you go, like you will see people make mistakes, and you know, like you'll try your best not to repeat the same mistake.
Donc ak différents nit ñi ngay taseel des fois am na mag ñoo xam te ne dañoo demoon dañ nekkoon si géej gi dem ba nga xam ne léegi mag lañ mën duñ dem da nga di approché.
And he's saying like through time you will see the elders as they get really old, like you know you get to approach them just to get the knowledge.
waaw léegi nag soo leen approché ñoom dañ lay apporter benn connaissance boo xam ne xamuloo ko woon.
So they will bring you or give you a knowledge that you never knew, you know, according to fishing.
waaw buñ la ko apporter da nga koy boole yow li nga xam.
And then
léegi nag loolu ngay développé maanaam bu nit ñëwee bu laaj la dara di nga fekk na xamoon waxoon nañ la ko plus yow li nga jot dund gis ko nga associé ko comme ça pour mën a am un savoir.
Okay, so he said that he will add on that knowledge to what he already has and use that to his own benefit basically. And yeah.
mais du lu ñuy mën nañ la ko jàngal mais buñ la ko jàngal dañ la ko jàngal théoriquement nii rek te loolu aussi si benn forme c'est un peu dangereux parce que buñ la jàngalee dara moom boo demee ba war ko maanaam mettre en œuvre soo taxawee dañuy xam ne nag maanaam voilà nekkoo à la fait si niveau bi nga kii donc mën nga ko wax théoriquement mais nga pratiquer moo gën a wóor et puis da ngay am les yu dëgër sa loxo.
Okay, so he's saying that there's the theory, but it's not enough. So you always have to practice, and the practice is what going actually dive in and see what you've been told and actually practice it. And without that practice, it's just theory, and you don't want to. And he said it's actually dangerous to actually just base off the theory that you know just. Learning based off the theory, basically, I'll say that's anything that we learn from, or most of the things we just you know we go past theory. We want to practice. We want to actually practice everything we learn from. That's it.
For sure.
Maybe Nicolas can say something about that also. Huh?
Oh yes, but Babacar said share his experience, so it's more valuable. But I can add that there is sociabilities among the fishermen. That they have places on the coast, and they when they go fishing for 2-3 hours. But after they spend a lot of time together, speaking, drinking tea, and sharing things about their dive. And you have also the elder fishermen like Touré. That Touré doesn't dive, didn't dive. He stopped diving, but they can also provide kind of formation with just people of the village that who want to try this kind of very specific. Actually kind of fishing, because it's not the majority at all. It's a very it's dozens of fisher, and just in Dakar, Ngor, and Al Madi. So, but mainly, of course, it's a daily experience of diving and the daily practice of the underwater environment that will lead to increase the capacity and the ability to dive, as said Babacar.
Mm-hmm. So like, you know, that 170 hertz anglerfish sound or other specific sounds, that's, you know, that could be maybe they heard something and they come back from their dive and they have other spear fishermen where they say, I heard a sound like this. Do you know what that could be? I heard it in this location. And there's some way of learning through others. And then besides that, it's just experience, your direct observations. Okay.
Il y avait des échanges entre les pêcheurs qui ont dit j'ai entendu un truc là-bas. Donc,
il a dit que est-ce que par exemple si un poisson entend une certaine sonorité à par exemple 170 Hz, est-ce qu'un même pêcheur peut. J'aurais répondu parce que je connais déjà la réponse. Non, mais je partage quand même. 170 heures. Est-ce que, par exemple, un autre pêcheur serait venu et affirmer qu'effectivement, il a entendu ce même son et dire qui est identifiable à un certain type de poisson? Il a compris ce que j'ai dit.
Non seulement, en fait, ça, c'est juste une question, en fait, en fait, parce qu'il en fait, comme moi, je peux entendre un son très loin et détecter ça. Je ne peux pas dire ça aux autres. Tu vois? Donc, ça aussi, pour moi, c'est quelque chose pour moi qui est là. En fait, des fois, je peux entendre une chose, on dit, il entend une chose. Non, ils m'ont dit qu'on n'entend rien. Mais c'est parce que, bon, il n'a pas la tonalité de cela. Voilà. Donc, ça aussi, pour moi, en fait, il faudra aussi, c'est juste une question de santé. Voilà. Donc, voilà, l'expérience. Parce que déjà, moi sensibiliser l'expérience aussi. Et aussi, comment dire, en fait, comment tu as appris aussi, pour moi, il est important. Parce que pour moi, quand on apprend la plongée, on t'apprend de faire en fait,
So he's saying that it depends on a lot of things, such as the way you learn how to dive and how to fish, the way you hear and how you developed a way of hearing, and your I'll say your
sensitivity.
Pas forcément.
I think he wants to say sensoriality.
Yeah, like
sensible dimension.
Sensibiliser. Avec les sensibiliser, en fait, sensible.
You can be more or less sensitive to the sound.
Sensitive, yeah. Like on how sensitive you are to hearing as well, and basically.
Yeah, just also what we noticed that some fishermen that did not pay attention to the sound at all until we asked them to describe the sound. And but this moment, yeah, they had a lot of things to say, but they never paid attention to the sound before. It happened for the one in Wakam, for example, but he said a lot of interesting things, and so it was not all for me. It's not all the spearfishermen that
right
were always very attentive to that.
Well, one of the most interesting or surprising things that Babacar said was that, you know, his hearing is now way more sensitive underwater, but it's worse out of the water. Did he say, maybe I misunderstood him, but I think that's what he said.
He did say that because most humans basically, when we go underwater, we have this compression, I believe, right? And their ears, like with time has just developed, like they have a decompression basically, and now they hear even way better than most of human beings. That being said, and that had happened, they don't hear as good now as we would hear on Earth. So they hear better when they're underwater.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I remember at some point he was trying to explain that. And that's that.
Yeah.
Admettons, quand je plonge pendant une semaine, quand je suis sur terre, moi j'entends moins. Et dans l'eau, j'entends tout ce qui bouge, tout ce qui bouge.
So he's saying like when he's underwater, he actually hears every single detail of what's surrounding him. while he's out here. Like sometime Timothée can back that up. We will have to say something and he will have to tell you, can you repeat because I did not hear you. Timothée can back that up. So that it actually did impacted him in a good way underwater, but you know, it impacted his hearing while he's on the surface.
But maybe it can, I don't know, but for example, if you lose the high frequencies in the water is not very problematic. The fish are always very low frequencies. So it could be because of that.
Ashik is wondering, well, before we get to Ashik's question, I have one more question specifically related to the listening. Another, first of all, yeah, it's just commonly understood that it's really difficult for humans to hear sound underwater. Today, we learned that that's clearly something that could be overcome. But what about with localization? Like, is Babacar able to hear a sound and pretty accurately, like, know what direction that sound is coming from and potentially the distance?
Là, il pose la question de est-ce que tu peux localiser les sons sous l'eau, est-ce que tu arrives à dire si ça vient de devant, derrière,
ça, tous les plongeurs, toutes plongeurs qui ont dans le map, quand on sont derrière, parce que quand tu pêches, tu as la sensibilité de détecter tous les sons derrière, de gauche, droite, comme ça, parce que pour savoir comment est-ce que le poisson est derrière toi.
Okay, so he's saying that as they dive with experience, they actually develop a way of hearing and a way of situating a sound, and that's normal to them. Like any diver would be able, or any experienced diver would be able to tell you a sound coming from, you know, from anywhere surrounding them, up front, you know, above, under, behind them. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think we did some research about that with Nicolas, because I thought it was not possible for physical reasons. And actually, Nicolas found a paper that we cite in our article. That was it was an experiment, a specific experiment done exactly about this question with spearfishermen. And to locate the sound underwater, and in this experiment they found that yes, there is a difference between experimental people and non-experimental.
I mean, yeah, humans are amazing. This is just amazing.
He wants more.
Maybe our final question before we wrap up, Ashik is wondering, Babacar, if you could change one thing for the conservation of the fish species and this ecosystem, what would it be?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, it's in the chat. If you could change one thing for the conservation of the fish species and of the ecosystem where he is fishing, what would it be?
Well, go ahead.
Je traduis. Donc, elle demande en fait si toi tu pouvais changer juste une chose sur la manière dont les poissons sont protégés. Qu'est-ce que tu proposerais?
Ok. En fait, moi je propose. Bon, en fait, je prends une seule qui. Ok.
One. Just one.
D'accord. Maanaam exemple en fait nii nii bu ma doon proposé nañu xoolaat système nañu xoolaat comment espèces yi nga xam te ne aussi dañ nekk en voie de disparition. Que ñu waxtaan ci ba nga xam te ne aussi même bu fekkee ne c'est une fois par an lañ koy pêcher ñu pêcher ko comme ça mu nekk pour la future génération. Je pense que là bu ñu ko defoon ça va donner un peu de voix et puis bon ça va pourra être en fait une réserve en fait qui va profiter à tout le monde. Donc il y a beaucoup de choses yoo mën a citer mais bon Donc,
okay. So he's saying that for him it would be the fact of the endangered species. If we could actually if there was any type of endangered species that if we could conserve, if we could try to conserve one of them, and if we if we actually do that, if they even have to fish that specific species only once a year, like they would do that just to save, just to save that species. For him, that would be the ideal goal, to like, just trying to save that species, whatever that species.
lenn lu si yokk mooy ñun ni ñuy nappee.
And what he would add to it is the fact that how they actually fish is not good.
Baaxul.
Mm-hmm.
Non, parce que selon boo jëlee tey bu fekkee ne boo jëlee napp bi nga xam te moo gën a civilisé c'est la pêche sous-marine.
Napp bi
gën a civilisé c'est la pêche sous-marine.
Okay.
Parce que soo demee da ngay jàpp jën bi nga soxla.
Okay, he said like the best. Okay, he's saying that the best way to fish, like the way they're actually fishing, which is apnea diving, is a better way of fishing, because you only go and target a specific fish or a specific type of fish. But
boo jëlee loolu boo jëlee napp bi gaal bateau yi gaal yi day maanaam dañuy jël sax ba jël loo xam te ne soxla wuñ ko buñ paree dañ koy tuur, donc loolu c'est du gaspillage.
Okay, so he's saying on the other hand, the other way, which is actually when you get to a boat or whatsoever, is like you actually go fish not only what you need, but what you don't need as well. And then what happens is after that you just throw it away, which is, not ideal.
Loolu quoi, ça dépend en fait en résumé bu fekkee ne bii la da ngay choisir. Mais bële amoo choix da ngay napp génne doo ko doyee dara après jet mbaa nga mu dee. Bu dee bateau yi c'est la même chose, bu dee gaal yi c'est la même chose. Donc bi nga xam te ne daal da ngay dem parlement nga xam ne yow da ngay jël li nga soxla. Yaa ni soxloo ko doo ko jël. Donc c'est beaucoup plus moo gën a neexa wax que yenn yi nga xam te ne da ngay jël sa ba jëloo yàqloo soxloo.
Okay. So what he's talking about like the waste. He doesn't want, human being to waste, basically, and it's just a waste. The fact that we have to go fish more than we need, and and just throw it out, basically. That's what he said.
Okay, I said that was the last question. I have one more, because we're going to share this video. Hopefully a lot of people interested in bioacoustics will take a lot from this, but I was wondering what advice Babacar would have for us to become better listeners.
Become better listeners underwater?
Or in general, in whatever area that we are working in. I mean, a lot of us are now listening to passive acoustic data. Others, we're out in our field sites in different environments. And so, what is his advice for becoming better listeners and really learning more about the significance of the sounds that...
Il explique que, eux, c'est une communauté de bioacousticiens. Donc, c'est leur travail. Ils passent leur temps à écouter les sons de partout, des écosystèmes et tout ça. Et donc, pour eux, c'est très important l'écoute. Et donc là, la question qu'il pose, est-ce que toi, tu aurais un conseil pour qu'ils écoutent mieux?
Ouais, quel conseil peux-tu donner?
Quel conseil tu pourrais donner pour qu'ils améliorent leur façon d'écouter?
Bon, ça, c'est pas du tout difficile parce que, en fait, les sons, en fait, que vous pouvez, en fait, il faut avoir le matos qu'il faut pour en fait, qu'ils puissent enregistrer le max.
Il parle en général, c'est-à-dire que yow, lan nga leen mën a yokk ci xam-xam pour ñu mën a ci dégg-dégg. Parce que ñoom ñëpp ay nit yoo xamante ni seen liggéey bi mi ngi sokkee ko ci dégg-dégg, mais dégg-dégg ci lépp, dégg-dégg ci ñun fi ñu nekk, waaw léegi ñoom peut-être instant ñi ngi xool naka la ñuy déggee ci suuf ndox yow ci nit boo xamante ni sa liggéey bi tamit ci dégg-dégg ngay liggéeyee lan nga leen mën a yokk ci xam-xam pour que ñoom tamit lan nga mën a yokk ci xam-xam ci dégg-dégg bu ñuy déggee ak fu mu mun ci doon que muy nekk ci suuf ndox wala ci leneen en général yow en tant que acousticien
maanaam la laa mën a indil quoi
voilà
bon si dama mën a wax daal mooy borom en fait maanaam bu fekkee ne vraiment si sama xalaatu bopp bu fekkee ne vraiment da nga bëgg a dégg si ndox da ngay maanaam en fait il faut que vraiment nga ngi bon loolu nag bon c'est une question ñëpp ko am.
So he's saying he's going to talk about his hearing but underwater, okay? That's go ahead.
léegi nag si biir loolu bu fekkee ne vraiment da nga bëgg a maanaam am benn kii bi donc il faut que sa décompression benn bu njëkk ba sa décompression il faut mu baax.
Okay.
He's
saying like your ear have to be decompressed. If it doesn't, you will not hear what he's hearing.
Donc léegi loolu bu baaxee. lépp loo bëgg a dégg si ndox da nga koy def mais nag loolu noonu moom question santé.
But he's saying like once that's done, you could actually hear anything underwater. But that will it actually trigger your health in a certain way. So if you actually are able to do so, yes, but if not, then yeah.
léegi loolu aussi maanaam buñ la ko jàngalee nga xam ne dafa mën a léegi kii na léegi nag comme mooy même bu bruit bëree maanaam bu fekkee dafa bëroon bruit fi carrément bu amee beneen son bu bokkul si ginnaaw da koy dégg.
Okay, he's saying that once you actually have that ear, and even if you're in a noisy environment under the water, once there's a difference, once there's a different sound in your surrounding, you will automatically detect that sound and be able to look and be like, oh, there's a different sound.
même kii boobu aussi mën nga ko am si kaw joor gi différemment.
But he's saying that as you actually develop that, you will develop that as well when you're offshore, like when you're offshore, excuse me, when you are, actually in this world out here, like you will develop a way of how should I say that? Right? Separate the sound or isolate, if I could say that, isolate a certain sound once you're somewhere, even regarding the noise, basically, you will be able to isolate a certain sound.
For
example,
ben musicien.
Okay, if you take a musician.
Voilà, léegi nag il a tous les effets de batterie etc. léegi bu ni ngay prêter attention si kii bi si par exemple ku def erreur nga dégg loolu mooy sensibilité bi nga xam te moom nga war a am si suuf ndox.
Okay, so he's saying like, for example, like for a musician, once they actually play a band, the second that someone play a wrong note, he will identify is the exact same way that he will. Yeah, the exact same way it occurs underwater basically.
Même kii la rek. léegi nag bon bu dee ndox nag moom il faut que aussi ci la santé en fait nga mën a xam nan ngay décompresser parce que ndox mi boo décompresser ndoxu gi ndox mi dafay dugg si biir. dafay dugg ba fees. bu duggee fees yaa nekk fi yéen a yem donc da nga war a éviter aussi sa bopp di métti.
Okay, so you're saying like the decompression of your ears is something that you have to learn and know how to let your ear decompress once you actually goes into water, because the water will fill your ears and at some point you might have headaches and you have to know how to balance and deal with that headache basically.
Parce que sa bopp bu méttee bu amee son bu nekk sa biir sa kii bi doo ko dégg.
Okay, he's saying once you have a headache, you will not be able to identify or hear this.
léegi nag loolu en fait ñun ñi di plonger vraiment les plongeurs les grands plongeurs ñi nga xam te kii nañ problème mu dañ koy éviter même boo sojee bu fekkee da nga soj sax boo wàccee si bopp di métti mën nga bañ a kii parce que déjà aussi dafay mën a toj tympan yi te boo amee beneen tympan bu toj moitié nit ngay doon doo ko di nga dégg mais dégg dafay am kii c'est-à-dire mun naa la woon gauche du dégg ou bien mun naa nga am loolu aussi
parce que mi ngi soy
maanaam boo amee tympan bu toj benn tympan
balaa loolu da nga ni ku am expérience
boo amee expérience maanaam su fekkee da nga dem maanaam mën nga xëy suba dem géej dem dugg si géej gi wàcc ci def décompression nga gis ne des na boo ne nii rek da nga koy sentir parce que bopp bi day diis parce que air bi war a génnul donc day def nii
Okay, okay, okay.
léegi bu defee noonu doo dégg da ngay vertige nga gën a jege ko kii na donc loolu kenn du ko force soo ko fontee yi day def day tax day comme manqa.
Okay, okay. So he's saying this the decompression is something to take very serious, and that you cannot force it, because if you do force, if you try to dive in again while you have that headache, your tampon, tampon,
Tympanum, yeah.
Tampon, c'est what's the internal
Tympanum.
skin?
The
drum, yeah.
Okay, exactly. Like your drum ears, I guess.
Yeah.
The drum,
Okay.
yeah.
Will he said it could pop, and
Yeah.
once it pops, like it's over, basically.
li mu laaj daal mooy sensibilité bi nga am si vraiment bu musique di tëgg nga mën a tax xamee les ingrédients qui vont avec c'est la même méthodologie boobu moom ngay utiliser sous l'eau mais sauf que sous l'eau c'est différent parce que tu as une pression qui te presse, donc après le ça tu as juste ça parce qu'en fait bu fekkee ñu ngi def am na tu as juste ça l'air qui est au cerveau.
Okay.
Donc
So
léegi nag loolu
so he's saying like the difference between like the band, what I was explaining earlier, and this is like it would be like the pressure on the water, and due to that, he's talking about some type of air that's in your brain. Go ahead.
léegi air boobu des si ngay mën a contrôler sa xol parce que boo demee ba mën a dégg sa battement de xol mën a dégg ma battement de cœur bi donc lépp lu nekk si environnement bi kii da ngay dégg.
Okay, so he's saying like they be having the ability to actually hear so much that they could even hear like their heartbeat, and once they could do that, they could hear anything that's around them.
loolu mooy secret bi
And that's the secret.
And
like it got, yeah, basically that's it. He's saying that once they hear their heartbeat, like they could hear anything else.
that's
But it's
beautiful.
all due to the pressure and the decompression of the.
Right, that's the sign that they've decompressed and that they're adjusted to hear their heartbeat. They can hear anything. I mean, this is just like tremendously fascinating. I feel like we could be here for more hours. I need to learn French so that I can listen to your podcasts when they're available. I think, it's just
we'll try to do we'll figure out a way to do an English conversation. Like we'll propose that to do an English version of things.
Propose it to Radio Lab, or like, I mean, this is such an interesting story that I think a lot of people would tune in and learn a lot about the work that your team is doing, and Babacar's just tremendous knowledge and abilities underwater. So we've been here now around the same time as one of your free dives, around 2 hours. And so it's time to come back to shore. And it's just, I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite BioacousTalks because we connect with academics a lot in this world, but it's really a privilege to have such an interdisciplinary team with Babacar, with Khalifa, and Timothée, Nicolas. We're really grateful for you putting this together, spending this time with us, and so just really thank you to each of you for joining us and sharing about your work.
You give us.
Thank you as well.
Yeah. I hope we can stay in touch.
Thank you.
Please keep us up to date with how this project is developing. All of these directions just sound like super fascinating, and you have a lot to share with the bioacoustics community, the marine ecology community, in a lot of different areas. So really bravo, and thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you as well.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye, Babacar.
Keep in touch.
Okay.
Allez.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys. Bye.
Right.